Story 1, Big Birds. I didn't realize I was until I went to a petting zoo as an adult and an emu walked up. It didn't do anything. It just walked. I left so quickly I surprised myself. Story 2. I am oddly scared of accidentally sending a text to the wrong person. Story 3. My cat got stuck in the dryer. I worry about it more than I should. Laughing out loud. Story 4. Pregnancy. I've never experienced it, but the whole thing is just so fucking creepy to me. Story 5. I didn't know until my kids brought home lice. I can't deal with it. I spent $100 on over-the-counter premium lice-killing treatments and sanitized my house for 16 hours straight. Story 6. Railings? I am 7 feet 1 inch tall, and most railings are too short for me to feel safe. Story 7. I worry about dying young. I have health anxiety and it is awful. I always think something minor is actually serious. I am also bothered by thunderstorms. Story 8. I have nightmares about being underneath a cruise ship and looking at its underside. It does not have to be very large, but the bigger it is, the worse it gets. Thinking about the rudder and the hull really freaks me out. Story 9. I walk past a group of teenagers not because they are dangerous, but because I know they will roast me without mercy. Story 10. Toilet bowls in photos. I'm not really afraid. I'm more grossed out. Story 11. Big, hunky, steroid-enhanced men. I am a little scared of men like that. Story 12. Balloons. More specifically, the loud noise a balloon makes when it pops. As a child, I avoided places that had them. I am not so much afraid as I am unsettled by clusters of holes or black dots. They make my teeth itch. Seeing a pile of maggots will make me cry. Story 13. One odd thing. I was a scared kid who grew up in rural Ohio. I actually unlearned a fear in a strange way. I was scared of the dark until one night I was alone in an open cornfield and thought, wait, what if I am the scary thing in the night? I hunkered down and started listening with a new mindset. I was the predator. Also, if ghosts exist, any random stranger I encounter in a mansion is no match for the generations of ancestors who have my back. My family ghosts are stronger than your ghosts. Story 14. For those out there like me, a life pro tip. Opening a can of biscuits by banging it on the counter used to spook me every time. Then one day I simply squeezed it hard enough to pop it after peeling off the outer wrapper. Removing the randomness of hitting it repeatedly and not knowing when it will pop feels different than intentionally squeezing it and instinctively knowing when it will pop. Story 15. When I was about 5, I heard on the radio that a man had been bitten in the buttocks while using the toilet. A snake had slithered into the pipes. For almost 2 years afterward, I refused to sit fully on the toilet. I would squat and repeatedly pause while using it to check the bowl for snakes. Story 16. I am very afraid that someone will stick a knife into my anus while I am sitting on the toilet and slowly push it in until I die. I do not know why. This fear has been with me since childhood. Story 17. Hummingbirds are very territorial and have long, narrow beaks. Story 18. Extra-large flowers like gigantic sunflowers and very tall seaweed make me feel claustrophobic. Story 19. I'm not afraid of heights, but I am specifically afraid of balconies with low railings. Any railing below hip level terrifies me because if I trip, I might tumble over it. Story 20. Fast-moving bugs. Rodents. Snakes. Dolls. Lining up my car correctly at the drive-through car wash. Story 21. Actually, opening up always bit me in the end. Story 22. I am looking out of the windows late at night. For context, I am in a rural area. If you are far enough out in the middle of nowhere, you might see something that traumatizes you. Story 23. I have a fear of driving into water. I have never known anyone who has done this, and I have never done it or even come close. When I am driving or riding as a passenger and there is water next to the road, I become very anxious. Story 24. Fairground rides. The inertia and the fear of the thing coming apart. Story 25. Oil derricks and gigantic aquariums full of marine life. Not the small fish tanks in a house but the large ones. Story 26. Okay, this is a little embarrassing, but I am nervous about escalators. Not a full-blown panic, but there is something about stepping on them that messes with my brain. The timing has to be perfect, or I feel like I am going to fall into another dimension. Story 27. Falling up, straight into the sky. I blame the rapture videos. Story 28. Ladybugs. I know they have substantial significance and purpose to the ecosystem. I get that they are not scary, but I absolutely hate them and I'm low-key afraid of them. In the mid-1990s, we had the first major El Niño heat wave where I grew up. This led to a massive ladybug infestation in our nearly 100-year-old farmhouse that truly had newspaper as insulation. They were everywhere: kitchen, bathroom, bedrooms, shower, tub, siding, doorways. I am not kidding. Those insects literally took over like a tiny army. One night I had a dream, a nightmare so vivid that few dreams since have felt as realistic. In the dream, I got off the bus from school, walked into the house, and the entire floor was covered in ladybugs so you could not see the floor at all. As I walked through the house, I felt them crunching beneath my feet, and suddenly I felt pain in my feet. I looked down and the insects had eaten through the soles of my shoes and were on my bare feet. I woke in a cold sweat to find my feet had fallen asleep and I could not feel them. I thought they were gone and was inconsolable for several hours despite seeing that I still had my feet. So yeah, fuck those insects. Story 29. I am going to be downvoted, but I am scared of Hasidic Jews. I had a frightening experience when I was very young in New York. A Hasidic man attacked our vehicle, and ever since they have frightened me. I suppose it is like being afraid of clowns. I am not scared of them as people. It is just their similar clothing, the hat, and the side curls. I do not know why. It is something I cannot help. Story 30. Laser-activated toilets. I don't know why. They just freak me out and make me laugh a lot. Story 31. A loved one driving while I am not with them. Story 32. I should not have cute underwear on if I am unconscious and taken by ambulance to the hospital. Story 33. Venus flytraps are plants that eat insects. One day that plant will grow and become a tree that eats people. Story 34. I'm not weird, but I am still afraid. Lately, I have been feeling lonely. Story 35. Okra. I either wear gloves or tell people not to pick up the pods. I was traumatized because I had a bad itch on my hand from them that lasted a whole week. Story 36. I was deathly afraid of hearing the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk commercials as a kid. Decades later, I occasionally hear them and they still make me uncomfortable. I do not have the foggiest clue why. Either my autistic brain is acting up, or I have some repressed memories I do not want dug up. Story 37. Shots. It is more the pain of the needle, which actually does not even hurt me, but I always think it will. Story 38. After a science class one year, we watched an episode of Monsters Inside Me. A man was walking barefoot and, if I remember correctly, a worm entered his eye and began laying eggs inside him. The eggs eventually hatched, and the worms tore his body apart. Story 39. I don't know if it is a fear, but I have a persistent anxiety that no one will show up to my funeral, if that makes sense. Story 40. When a single tree is much taller than those around it, the contrast is striking. Examples include Centurion and Hyperion, two of the tallest trees found when searching for the tallest tree. Story 41. Sparklers and the contents of glow sticks. Story 42. It is disturbing to think someone might be listening to my private affairs. It feels strange to admit that I am afraid people could hear me from an impossible distance, for example, several meters away or from inside a moving car. Story 43. Elevators and birds in general. Chickens are tiny demons with beaks. Story 44. There are rocks just below the surface of a calm lake. The movie on Golden Pond has a scene that captures my fear. My wife mocks me because she doesn't understand. Story 45. Whatever will happen at that military meeting next week. Story 46. Heights. Not all heights bother me. Very high is okay. But I hate standing on a wobbly ladder 2 meters up. Going on a hike in the mountains along a very thin trail is no issue. Story 47. I'm glad to see balloons here. I thought I was crazy. For me, it is mostly when the helium has half worn off and they are kind of floating in the middle of the room. I don't know why, but it feels like they are sentient and watching me. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. Story 48. Bulgarian public transport and walking near a street crosswalk. Story 49. Cosmic horror. The idea of reality being suddenly torn apart, not just physical death but the death of consciousness, with all of reality ceasing to exist. Story 50. When I was a kid and the numbers marched toward the screen on Sesame Street, I felt like 7 was coming to get me. Story 51. Polar bears could murder me in an instant and probably would for literally no reason. Walruses creep me out, but that is because of Tusk. Story 52. I absolutely despise shaky bridges, but I love high carnival rides. Story 53. Back in December 2021, my mother and I were involved in a collision with a truck. Neither of us was injured. I was very nervous about sitting in the passenger seat for the next 2.5 years. In 2024, I began to feel much safer in the passenger seat. I am also strangely afraid of looking over the balcony at Place des Arts and of 3-foot diving boards. Story 54. Ceiling fans. You are placing a lot of trust in whoever installed them to ensure they do not fall and cause injury. Story 55. Someone I love went to sleep and did not wake up. It happened to a friend of a friend. A brain aneurysm burst overnight and he was gone. Story 56. Being trampled to death by cows is a genuine risk in the countryside that must be considered. Story 57. Sunken ships or shipwrecks. I blame watching the movie Titanic as a child. Story 58. Honestly, I like makeup even though I am a man. I tried face paint a few years ago for Halloween but could not bring myself to do it, and I have not tried it since. Story 59. Silent places that are neither campsites nor countryside. Story 60. I feel uneasy using stairs in public places or in houses I have not been in before. I experience dizziness and vertigo when I am only a few meters away from the first step. Story 61. I am good with snakes, spiders, and all kinds of other creepy crawlies, but grasshoppers freak me out. Story 62. Every time my mom tried to get me on a bike, I would fall and hurt myself. Story 63. I have a strange fear that someone will put a snake in my mailbox. Story 64. Medium to large dogs. I used to have a dog and was not afraid of dogs, but now I do not trust them. There is no particular reason. I just find them hard to read. A dog can appear to be smiling and wagging its tail and still maul you. Story 65. Commitment. After being widowed following 25 years of marriage, I am afraid of becoming attached to someone or anything that is just going to die on me. Story 66. Walking on an iron floor with circular cutouts. Walking on stairs with gaps between the steps where a leg could get caught. Story 67. Surprises make me very anxious when I don't know what's going on. I'm calm when I'm informed and aware. I don't care whether the surprise is happy or scary. If it's suddenly in my face when I open the door, then nope. Story 68. I have a fear of bugs crawling into my ears. I always keep my ears covered. On my computer, I wear headphones. When I sleep, I use earplugs. When I am out, I cover my ears with my hair or use earbuds. Story 69. Until about the age of 14, I was terrified of the electric chair. Images and references to its use in death penalty cases, anything to do with it, would freeze me with fear. Please do not ask me why. I could not tell you. Story 70. I have deer that like to hang out right outside my bedroom window while I sleep. My neighbor says they never used to do that when the previous tenant lived here. My dad thinks it is a sign of good luck, like someone is watching over me. I cannot help but get the heebie-jeebies when I hear them in the morning. I do not know why. Story 71. I cannot deal with stories where humanity is wiped out. I could not watch Do Not Look Up. I watched Flow, which implied humanity was gone, and it gave me a deep sense of unease. Maybe it triggers existential dread. Story 72. I love aviation. I have taken several flight lessons, been on aerobatic flights, and learned how safe flying is. I live in a region with a very high safety record. Yet when I sit on a commercial aircraft, My fear and anxiety spike out of control, and I do not know why. Story 73. On the 26th, 27th, and 28th of any month, something traumatic always happens. Story 74. Tuesday is the worst day of the week. My mother died, a quai butchered my teeth, and so on. Story 75. Raccoons are often considered cute, and sometimes they look that way in photos. Their grubby little hands creep me out, and I am irrationally afraid they will jump on my face and bite me. I often see them during the day when I walk along the lakefront. They are not afraid of people. When I spot one, I turn around and take another path. Story 76. I like gold jewelry. Seeing my name in capital letters always scares me. Story 77. One of the banned Dr. Seuss books is about made-up letters, and those letters creep me out, even though they are combinations of 2 or more letters. Story 78. Fish. More specifically, fish you find in British rivers and waterways. Tropical fish don't terrify me as much. I've really worked on my phobia over the years because I know it is irrational. I am a water baby and like to be submerged as much as possible. I think it stems from the ghastly fish market, seeing slab upon slab of slimy, dead-eyed fish lined up. I do not eat seafood. Prawns seem like sea worms and I cannot fathom the appeal. I will eat fish that is prepared so it no longer looks like a fish, such as cod, haddock, and tuna. The fishy taste of the sea makes me heave. I have tried to like salmon, but one taste makes my body retch. Apparently, I make a very good fish pie. My family likes fish. I just have to ensure all windows are open to get rid of the smell while cooking, and I always have someone taste it. To help overcome my phobia, I anthropomorphize fish. The goldfish in the tank at my father's care home are my little buddies. When I was inadvertently caught in the middle of a shoal of tiny fish off the coast of Spain, I started chatting to them and remained calm until I got out of the water and had a small meltdown. The strange thing is fish fascinate me. I like to spot the biggest fish in a river. If they are in a harbor, I watch them. I love aquariums, although I am not keen on the British waterway section. Pike terrify me. I know it is odd. Story 79. I can pick up a black widow with my bare hands, toss it in the air, catch it, and play with it with no problem. I can yank a snake or handle a poisonous reptile. But if it flies, I say goodbye. If it can fly, I am frightened. What caused this? Have you ever seen those big black carpenter bees that fly directly at your face at full speed? Not all of them sting, but some do bite. 5-year-old me never got over it. Then, as an adult, I saw a cockroach and told my friend, "It's just a roach. Kill it." Since it was his apartment. Did you know cockroaches can fly when they get big enough? I screamed when it flew at me. Story 80. Caves. I was abandoned intentionally by a group and trapped in an underground cave a year ago. Even in the most open cave, you will never catch me near one. Story 81. It started when I was entering a movie theater and passed what I thought was a mannequin. It turned out to be a man in a Michael Myers costume who pretended to swing a knife at me. I ran out screaming. Story 82. The TriStar logo and the trumpeting sound that once accompanied it still bother me. Going to the movies, I felt vaguely uncomfortable watching a giant-sized Pegasus run across the screen. They changed it at some point. Sometimes he runs across, sometimes straight toward the viewer. Eventually, it became a full-blown phobia. If I hear that music or see a still image of a white horse, I get anxious. If a favorite movie is produced by TriStar, I fast-forward through the credits or leave the room until after the film starts. Story 83. I have cuprolaminophobia, the fear of coins. I get really disgusted by coins, their smell, oxidized coins, and wet coins. I can't stand looking at coins, especially when I eat. After I hold or touch coins, I sanitize my hands religiously. Story 84. Airplanes. I want to travel, but I have to be sedated to board them. Story 85. I hate to imagine a big cockroach like a lion-sized cockroach. It makes me really scared. I also imagine a tiger or a lion set free. Thank God I live in a country with no wild animals. I don't know how you sleep at night knowing that bears are walking around your homes. Story 86. Liminal spaces, like the paintings by Brent Wong, are deeply uncanny, isolating, and vast. They unnerve me every time I see them. Story 87. Balloons. I was just at a work-related seminar. To break the ice, they asked us what our hobbies were. One woman said she had a side gig as a clown and made balloon animals. She produced balloons and a pump. During a coffee break, she began making balloons for everyone. I had to leave the room because I knew one would eventually pop, and one did. A couple of hours later, they asked if we had any phobias. I admitted I was afraid of balloons. The look on the woman's face was striking. She had mentioned earlier that her dog had died, and for the afternoon break she kept her balloon equipment in her bag. It reminded me of my 4-year-old nephew. Story 88. Slugs. I don't mean they gross me out. I imagine they gross most people out. Most bugs give me the wiggles. Spiders, centipedes, millipedes, worms, butterflies. I don't like them, but I can ignore them. I get the ick, but that's it. With slugs, it's a full-blown phobic reaction. Sweating, crying, hyperventilating. I screamed the building down when I accidentally touched one while I was collecting glasses at work. My boss had to send me through to the kitchen because I was white as a sheet. I ran my hands under scalding water for 5 minutes until they were bright red, and I was still shaking when I came back out. Seriously, it's a fucking slug. What the fuck is it going to do? Chase after me? I can't think of a less threatening animal. Story 89. Milkweed seeds or other plant seeds with fluff on them. I have no idea what caused this. It has been an issue since I was a little kid. Someone should study me. Story 90. I have a farm and work as a nurse. I am Australian, and we have the largest number of deadly snakes. Story 91. I do not know why, but I am afraid of old elevators that make a lot of noise when the doors open and close. I am deathly afraid, especially when I am alone in one. Story 92. I'm kind of scared of the ocean. I have only ever seen it once. Look at the content on the subreddit Thalassophobia to see what my nightmares look like. Story 93. Animatronics and unusually large things made me uncomfortable. For example, in Manhattan there used to be a Toys R Us with a giant screeching Tyrannosaurus Rex. I disliked it intensely and would never go near it. It felt enormous to me and was an animatronic, so both factors applied. Story 94. I am afraid of tall buildings and high ceilings. I cannot stand next to them and look up. I literally collapse to my knees and almost start hyperventilating. Story 95. When glass breaks, I go crazy every time. I worry that everyone will be severely injured because I forgot to clean up even the tiniest piece. Story 96. There was a point in my life when I was afraid of horses. Story 97. Turning a corner at night, I did not have time to catch my soul as it departed my body when a demonic creature appeared in front of me. Story 98. Walking past a group of teenagers, I instantly forget how to act like a normal human. Story 99. Paralysis, reptiles, missing house keys, and locking yourself out. Story 100. I crashed my car and hit my head on a partially opened window. I either drive with the window fully up or about 90% down. Story 101. I am weirdly afraid of spiders and insects. By weirdly afraid, I mean being afraid for no reason. I actually suffer panic attacks, but when I have them, it is not because of those animals or anything like that. They occur for unfathomable reasons. Panic attacks are the strangest of all. Story 102. I would say chimpanzees, but is it really that strange to be afraid of something with myostatin inhibition? Those animals are muscle-enhanced, man. Story 103. Dark water. When I was young, my dad kicked a ball onto the roof of an old school building where we were playing football. The place had long been disused. He pushed me up to grab the ball. As I walked to get it, I saw a vent and looked through. I realized I was above the old swimming pool. I could see pure black water rippling and the reflection of a small bit of light shimmering on the wall. It still gives me shivers. Story 104. Mascots. I was walking in downtown Philadelphia once. I turned a corner and nearly walked right into the Philly Fanatic. How I managed not to completely freak out remains a mystery to this day, although I did have to rest my head on my desk for a while. Story 105. An Arabic person reads a scary story out loud, especially at night. I'm Arab. Story 106. We had a flea infestation a few years ago, and it took a long time and a lot of money to get rid of them. Now I get paranoid if I see a black speck. We also have flea traps around the house that we check regularly. Story 107. An understanding of my childhood would make this less weird, but it involves needles and hospitals. Story 108. I stopped under an overpass when a car fell from it onto my car. Story 109. Those stupid flying monkeys in The Wizard of Oz. Decades of horror movies later? No, just those goddamn monkeys. Story 110. My most irrational fear is that, no matter what time of day, if I am outside and it is empty with no cars or pedestrians, I become incredibly scared that a zombie outbreak has happened. The first person I see after thinking this terrifies me because I imagine they will pounce on me. I also worry that my parents were in a car crash if they arrive home late. If I am coming home late and my parents are not there, I become very afraid that someone is in my house. Story 111. Whistler's Mother, the painting, has been on my mind ever since I saw Mr. Bean at the cinema. When talking on the phone, the only person I am 100% comfortable with is my mum. Story 112. Where is the line for weird? I cannot stop under an overpass. I had a couple of serious nightmares as a child about being crushed, and one occurred as an adult. I get very creeped out about being under heavy things. I have managed it with people in the car, but uncomfortable is a mild way to describe how I felt. Is that weird enough? Story 113. Television and monitor screens that are turned off and appear black at night may be related to suppressed traumatic childhood memories. Story 114. I am sitting on a water bridge or an overpass when it collapses with me still on it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.